pathologist at Boston Children's Hospital, and I am going to be talking about proactive intervention for people who have ALS, or motor neuron disease, as it's called sometimes, or sometimes it's even called Lou Gehrig's disease. So I want to, first of all, tell you I don't have any conflicts. We often need to tell people in the United States if we have conflicts with our presentations. Over the next 2 hours, I have a lot of content to share with you. And I have many videos of people with ALS that I will be showing, and a lot of information about free downloadable templates and materials that can be used. And almost all of those are on our website. And so if you take down the website address, you can then go back and look at all of these videos and the materials at your leisure. And I will keep referring to the website. Before I start, may I ask how many people here are currently working with people who have ALS? Yes? Yes? But in general? Okay. Yes? And are you in a clinic setting or a private practice? Rehab in Riyadh? Okay. Because I understand that there are many different ways of treating people, and I don't know if there are many clinics here in Saudi. Just one or two? Yes. Okay, so there are not specific clinics for people with ALS. And in the rehab hospital, who is involved in care? OT? PT? SLP? Fantastic. Neurologist? Nurse? Social worker, maybe? Okay. And do you also have people involved for supporting augmentative communication? Speech? Yes. And so when you need someone who is doing augmentative communication technology, do you call somebody in? Yes, so probably Matea, who's in Dubai, who I think covers much of the Middle East, representing technology. Carmen. So what I want to talk about is that augmentative communication is much more than technology, and that we really have to start working with people very early. Our team at Boston Children's Hospital is made up of many people. There are 16 people who only do augmentative communication assessments all day long. And we have on Facebook a page with many resources. And so that's our Facebook resource if you're interested. And again, many handouts and videos go up there. These people, excuse me, these people work exclusively with ALS in our clinic. So why do I want us to have this conversation today about starting early? Several people who have ALS sent me this graphic when I first met them, when they were first diagnosed. And the graphic, as you see, says on the left what I'm thinking, and on the right what I say. And what people said to me is that they were very afraid. They were very afraid that that this is what was going to happen to them, that they would not be able to express what they actually want to say. when we think about people who have ALS, and what a lot of the literature has stated is that we should wait before we introduce augmentative communication, and it's wrong. That literature, those ideas are wrong, and I want to explain why. Some of the faulty perspectives have suggested that we want to wait until someone's speech is at a point where they are having much difficulty with production, or we want to wait until someone's numbers of words per minute is low. Typical speakers speak about 190 to 200 words per minute. And some of the early literature has said that we should wait for someone to have 120 words or lower before we introduce augmentative communication. The problem with that is then we lose many opportunities for people to participate. We have had people in our center who come in very early, and so I'll just sort of highlight for you that there are people who, even though the common idea is that you wait until someone has much impairment, we have people who have come within days or weeks of their initial diagnosis. And this will also be on our website, but you can see that even though the literature says we should wait until someone's words per minute are below 120, you can see we have many people whose speech is almost not impaired at all. And then finally, in the United States, and actually through the Motor Neuron Disease Association internationally, there's a lot of focus on using the functional rating scale. And that, as you may know, is a scale that has up to 48 points. And the idea is that we, the literature often says that we don't look at communication until someone is low on that scale. But you can see here we have many people who are coming in very early in the disease. So I want you to hear from people who have ALS. And I mentioned that there are a number of videos. There's not interpretation for the videos. So I'm going to try to summarize a bit, and then I will play the video. But this man who has ALS is talking about why he believes it is so important to start early and not wait until his speech is failing. And he goes on to state that for many people who have ALS, they feel when they go to a rehab center, when they go to see a doctor, that they are almost victims, that all the team does is they measure how much loss they have, and they don't have much to offer them that's positive. What you will hear here is this gentleman saying that starting early gives him a lot of hope.
You know, John, the way I see the care that's given to ALS patients, the neurologists really, they're working on research and they're trying to understand ALS, but practically speaking, they monitor what's going on and react. And this program is the opposite, the way I see it. It's so proactive and gives you the sense that you're not being victimized physically, but you're allowing yourself to do something proactively. And when you're diagnosed with ALS, everything is happening to you. This program has at its core an opportunity for us to give and share with the people we love what's on our heart before it gets too bad.
And it puts you in control. It gives you that control.
It gives you the
It's
sense
the one thing
that,
you can be in control of.
yes, and the technology is changing, and
So the point that he just made, and was that translated for you? Yes? You were hearing some of that translated? The video?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, thank you. The point that they were making is that control is so key. And for many people with this disease, we as providers don't offer much that gives them control. So our program, as you see in this slide, really focuses on trying to make sure we introduce as early as possible communication strategies that are going to support people to have success. And we very much believe in trials, evidence-based trials. That means that when it comes to technology, we never have someone meet a vendor, see a piece of technology, and then get a prescription for it. We always want people to try things to make sure it's the right tool. We also want to make sure that communication is always focusing on supporting daily function, personal control, social and vocational goals. Many of our patients with ALS, their stated goal when we meet them early is that they want to continue to work, even as they lose hand function, even as they lose their ability to walk, even as they lose their ability to speak, they want to continue to work. And so that is one of the things that we do through assistive technology, is make sure people continue to run their companies and run their board meetings and speak at gatherings. We want to maintain quality of life, and we want to make sure that people are introduced to every type of technology and support available. I mentioned that we want to be proactive. We want to meet people as early as possible, but if we don't get that opportunity, we want to meet someone whenever it's possible. So this description, I'm wondering, I hear from many people around the world that it's difficult to get their patients with ALS to think about augmentative communication because they're afraid. Yes? Do other people have that experience? I mean, many times people, I'm told that when the team talks about augmentative communication, the patient doesn't want to participate because it's so scary. Also the family, exactly. And what we've learned is that much of that has to do with the way augmentative communication is described. Up until this point, when someone talks about augmentative communication to someone who has ALS, I think many providers say, okay, you're going to lose your ability to speak, you're going to have to use technology, you may have to use your eyes to control everything, we have to get you a device. And to many patients, that is so frightening that they don't want to deal with it. Consequently, many of those people are unwilling to look at communication until they're having a lot of difficulty. So why do we have so many people who come in very early, who are walking in, putting down their briefcase, saying, I've got 2 hours, but then I have to go back and run a board meeting at my company? Well, it's because we've worked with neurologists who have been spectacular at giving a much more generous message to what communication is. So what's written here, and this is on our website as well, is helping people with ALS remember that we all use augmentative communication all the time. So the goal isn't suddenly you're going to have to start using an eye tracking device. The goal is we want to support you to continue to have control. And the way we will do that is making sure that you use communication strategies throughout this disease however you best can use it. So I will read here. Communication is a pretty broad word. It obviously includes speaking with people one-on-one and in groups, but it also includes writing, talking on the telephone, using a keyboard computer, using the internet, social media, or texting, even if you're having problems with your hands. We all use multiple methods of communication other than speech. We all use augmentative communication. So the goal is to help people understand that we're just looking at changing the balance of what augmentative communication strategies they are using. And maybe they're going to have to start using other access strategies. Okay, before I go on any further, I have to tell you that nearly everything we have learned about how to support people with ALS, we've learned from people with ALS. We've been extremely fortunate, as I mentioned, to work with fantastic neurologists who think very early. We have many patients who come to us from around the country and now around the world, but especially we have many patients who come to us from Mass General Hospital, from their ALS clinic there, and the neurologists there, I don't know if that's me, that noise. The neurologists there have been really spectacular at giving the message to people that I've just described. Because of that, we get to work with many patients who have educated us with how to help them. So I want to start out saying that I'm very grateful to all of our patients. So believe it or not, when we first meet a person in clinic, one of the things we say to them is, you know what? My goal is to waste your time a little bit. Why would I say that to someone? Have you adjusted this or something? No? Sounds like it's giving feedback now. I don't know why. Why would we tell someone that our goal is to waste your time? Well, it's because I want patients to understand that we have no magical insight into what is going to happen to them. So I want to introduce many strategies, but I don't want you to fear that, okay, he's telling me about this because he knows in 2 more months that's going to happen to me. Because then people stop listening. All they do is they become terrified. Instead, we tell people, our goal is to give you as much information as possible, because all I know is that one of the worst things I can do is set you up to have to learn things in the heat of the moment, at the worst time. So I'd rather give you information that you don't need than not give it to you. We also tell our patients, you are stuck with us. And why do I say that? Because many people have said that they are afraid that if they present as too much of a challenge, their rehab team is going to say, I'm sorry, there's nothing more we can do. And so we tell people, no matter what issue you have, we are staying with you. And we are not going to let go of you. And we want you to tell us every time you think that you have a problem, so we can try to figure out a solution. So for purposes of our conversation for the rest of this afternoon, communication, the ability to express oneself face-to-face, in group settings, via telephone, writing, email, or text. And again, we want to also be looking at how to support someone to have social connectedness, focus on making sure people don't lose communication partners. I saw last week 7 new patients with ALS. And each of those people told me that they are now experiencing situations where they can no longer communicate with people who are important to them. That it takes too much time, or they're afraid that they are a burden now because of their difficulty with communicating. So one of our goals is to make sure people are not losing communication partners, that they can still be successful. And then that people continue to participate in activities that they want. So we're going to now talk about many different strategies. So this is our protocol of intervention with people who have ALS. And it's a protocol now that the International Motor Neuron Disease program or foundation is looking to adopt as a recommendation for all centers when working with people who have ALS. We have a lot of technology that we use in our clinic. So this is the technology for our ALS clinic. More of the technology that we're using, more of the technology that we're using. However, what I hope you get out of this is that technology sometimes is not the solution. And there are many, many other strategies. Instead of clinicians telling people, well, I want you to meet with someone to look at an eye tracking device, there are many other things that we need to do first. Part of our team, so I'm only half of what happens in our clinic. I'm a speech-language pathologist. We have an occupational therapist who only focuses on physical access. So looking at positioning, physically being able to access keyboards, using the telephone, environmental controls, reading books, computer access, etc. She is not here today, so but I want to make sure that you at least know everything we're going to talk about is really only half of what truly needs to be addressed. So speech strategies. When many people come into our clinic, we obviously want to help people figure out how to maximize their use of speech. And there are sometimes just very simple strategies that you want to encourage people to do. Now, and as clinicians here, we have all thought a lot about this. We think about how to help someone to be successful. We may even be thinking about the speech mechanism itself. You have to remember that most of our patients just think, I open my mouth and I speak. They don't think about the process of speech or how to make it easier. So simply encouraging people and their partners to focus on face-to-face communication, number one. Always choosing quiet places, especially if you're out in the community. And by the way, all of this is also on our website with videos. I see some people wanting to write it down, and you're welcome to, of course. We're going to talk a fair amount about using a voice amplifier, and I want to explain why that's so important. Not speaking while eating, and then pacing your speech. For many people, you know, I come from Boston, and in the northeast part of the United States, people are famous for speaking very quickly. And so a lot of the patients that we see are still trying to speak fast, even though they're having difficulty with speech. Sometimes simply encouraging people to talk at a slower rate is important. Considering producing sounds that are typically glossed over, and I presume in Arabic that it is the same in English, that there are some sounds that we sort of quickly slide over. And so in English, an example, the word W-A-T-E-R, water. So we say water, water. for many people who develop dysarthric speech with ALS, asking them, even though the T in that word in English is not pronounced, we will say, now, instead of saying what, say what, what. So putting those sounds in there that help you break up the word and say it more clearly. And for some people, for a very long time, that is a strategy that makes them more successful. And then also making sure that people recognize that they have to use fewer words per breath and pause between each of those words. And then finally, thinking about positioning. For all of us, breath support is based upon having good posture and good positioning. Additionally, and by the way, when I start to talk with people about speech, what's also evident is that most people don't recognize that speech is made up of multiple mechanisms. And we're going to look at that in a moment. But also, one of the things that often works for someone who's having a hard time with speech is using letter cueing. So as I'm saying a word and I'm not understood, pointing to the letter of the first sound of the word. So you can see here some letter cueing boards. Here on the left side is a letter cue board where we've actually attached it. It's iron-on material to someone's sleeve. So if they are having a hard time being understood, they can say the word again and just point to the letter, but it's always with them. And obviously, you could do the same thing with an Arabic keyboard, and it just is a matter of having that ironed on or somehow attached so that it's easy for people to point to. On our website, there are a lot of examples of these letter boards and how to introduce them and use them. Okay, amplification. For many people with ALS, when I meet them early, and I talk to them about using a voice amplifier, they say, but why? My voice is strong. Those same people, however, will tell me that they get fatigued later in the day, or that they sometimes pick and choose when to speak because it uses a lot of energy. So what we do, and you can see a quote here, I can talk loud enough. It's just around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I become fatigued. So we talk about the speech mechanism and how when each of us speaks, it involves respiration, phonation, articulation, and resonance. You would be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't be surprised, the number of times a person with ALS has said to me, now this makes so much sense. I didn't know that. And again, I think we forget that we've thought so much about the body and the mechanism that sometimes we just need to inform our patients. So I'll say there are all these muscle groups that are involved. The reason you're getting fatigued is because you're using all of those muscles very quickly. If you were to use an amplifier, and I go through and describe, by the way, what each of them is, and you have that information. If you use an amplifier, and there are many types of amplifiers, you can preserve your energy. So I want to show you, you met this gentleman earlier. He is going to talk about how he uses an amplifier at work all the time. And he left it at home to charge. He went to work. He had to run a meeting for 2 hours. He didn't have his amplifier, and he became so exhausted that when he went home, his wife said he went to bed with his clothes on and just fell asleep for the rest of the night and couldn't speak anymore. So you'll hear a little bit of that from him.
But
I think-
very important tool for me.
I think he realized that once he was running a meeting at work and he came home just exceptionally exhausted, voice-wise too. And I was like, what? Well, I ran a meeting. Well, didn't you use your voice down? Well, I forgot. Or it wasn't there. Was it home or something?
It was,
I said, put it, you use it at work. That's when you're going to mostly use it. So keep it at
Keep
work,
it at work.
you know. So he's been doing, I think
No,
that was
that's
kind of
great.
a realization when he didn't use it, the big difference that it made.
I came home that night and went right to bed.
Yeah, he didn't even change
It
his
was an
clothes.
hour
He just
meeting
stayed in
and I
bed.
had to project.
Wow.
It was exhausting.
Exhausting. Physically.
So again, it was exhausting. This man, who also has ALS, started talking in our office about why he likes the amplifier, and you'll hear him basically say it just is easier to talk when he uses the amplifier. And notice how clear his speech is. You know, this isn't someone who you would typically say, oh, you need help with your speech. But he self-recognizes that he uses so much energy trying to speak that an amplifier is important.
Well, one of the reasons why I like the amplifier, it saves my voice energy so that I do not get as tired in the evening. And I need to remind myself more every day to use it more. Because the first reason when I get tired at night, it's because probably exhausted from expending my voice. But with this amplifier, I can talk slower and also not as loud because the amplification, which is everybody in here.
So again, someone else highlighting. Do you know of people who are using amplifiers for this purpose? It's been interesting to me, as powerful as this is, it's a new idea in the world of ALS. People always think, use an amplifier when someone's voice is so quiet that they can't speak, instead of use an amplifier as soon as possible to preserve energy so somebody can continue to be successful. There are many different amplifiers. On our website, we've got examples. I apologize, I'm not certain which amplifiers are available here. Or are there amplifiers you know of that are preferred here in Saudi? So if not, feel free to go to our website and you'll see examples of the amplifiers. And the other piece that's really important for many people is the headset. Because sometimes it's important for operational reasons. It makes it clearer, you know, to have one type of headset versus another. Sometimes it's important for cosmetic reasons. I work with people who they just don't like the way a particular headset looks. And so they won't wear it just because they don't like the look. So there are several different headsets, different colors, etc. Many people ask, well, can I wear a lapel mic so I don't have to have it in front of me? No. Good question. Why? Because the lapel mic is designed to pick up a strong voice. And so when you are using a lapel mic in a conference, you still try to project and you speak nice and loud, and that mic is intended for a strong voice. And so it defeats the purpose because someone still has to use a lot of energy in order to be heard. There are also a couple of wireless microphones that are available. Those are also on our website. And some people like that, so they don't need to have the wire. The only challenge we have with wireless microphones, at least the one I can find, is sometimes there's a little bit of white noise in the background. So that sound in the background. BiPAP. Many of our patients whose respiratory therapist, whose pulmonologist has told them, you need to be wearing your BiPAP mask, you need more support throughout the day, have said to us, I know my doctor said I need it, but I don't wear it because I don't have the hand control to take it off, and I can't speak. Now, have any of you tried to speak with someone who's wearing a full face mask? It can be difficult to hear. And so that's why many patients will say, well, then I won't wear it. It's like, okay, but now you are sabotaging yourself because you're not getting good air. A very easy solution. And by the way, I'm going to show, well, I'll show you there are two different. There are, when I first tried to look for transdermal microphones, so a mic that can be worn around the neck and picks up sound through the skin, I found one that was very expensive and good quality, but very expensive. It was about $5,000 for the microphone. And there were many things not very practical about it, like you had to plug it into the wall, and so for someone who was moving around, it was a challenge. So I began to search for transdermal microphones. And on Amazon.com, I found a microphone for $26. Now, when you look at it on Amazon, it rates it okay. But keep in mind, those ratings are because people were trying to look at it as a normal microphone, not for what we want to do. So this man is wearing the transdermal microphone. You can see the black around his neck. It's a U shape that goes on this way. There's a feed on either side of the neck, and he's speaking in this video. He has an amplifier down here by his hip. And the first part of the video, so you know how good this microphone picks him up, the first part, the amplifier is turned off. Then we turn it on so you can hear the difference. So the first time he said, "This is my voice without the microphone," and then you just heard him say, "This is my voice on the microphone." And the only difference is wearing that transdermal microphone. And so for many people with ALS, focusing on amplification and focusing, even if they are wearing the full face mask, on using a transdermal microphone is critically important. I had a man who, before I came here a couple of days ago, his family had contacted me and said that he has very quickly lost skill, and now he has to wear a mask all day long, and he can still speak, but they can't hear him. I gave them information on one of these. They got it immediately. I got an email from this man's brother saying, our whole world changed in 5 minutes. We put that on, and suddenly he's back. We can talk with him. Partner training. For many, many communication partners, it is difficult to figure out how I should interact with someone who's using augmentative communication. We all want to, as sort of good human beings, we want to make it easier for other people. Sometimes in trying to make it easier, we make it harder. We guess, we interrupt, we talk over people, we interpret and sometimes interpret incorrectly. And so many of my patients have given guidelines for what they think partners should do, communication partners. I work with a man who said to me, and I will read this, I've noticed that people are uncomfortable with silence. And he means the silence as he is putting a message together. And they feel the need to fill it, even as I'm putting together a message. Because I am slower, other conversations start, or people ask me lots of yes-no questions, and not only do I lose the opportunity to complete my message, but I also lose the opportunity to be part of the conversation while I'm putting that message together. So for many people, they say it is much better if, as I'm putting a message together, people don't continue to talk and ask me questions and carry on conversations, because I can only do one at a time. I want to, and again, on our website, there is a lot of information about this. I want you to hear from a couple of people who have ALS who are using technology. And so Bob, I'm doing a home visit with Bob, and I had asked him about predicting. What do you think when people predict? And Bob uses technology. He's using his eyes. And you will hear him say, well, you know, if people are here all the time, it's okay sometimes, but then people have to understand like when to stop, because it can really be a problem.
The guessing happens.
Guessing happens.
So what do you think about guessing and predicting?
So I ask, what do you think about guessing and predicting?
For people who have been here a long time, it is fine.
I assume because they know the routine.
And I say yes, because they know the routine.
But people need to know when to stop.
Do you have a way of telling them?
Do you have a way of telling them when they should stop?
I have just been thinking about that.
Yeah, I imagine it's a fine balance between trying to let people know that they could be sabotaging you and also respecting the fact that people are usually doing it thinking they're helping.
Think will hold eyes closed to signal.
So he says he thinks he's going to hold his eyes closed
Yeah,
to
'cause
signal
then
to
people
people.
kind of see you've sort of stopped. That's a good idea.
So he says he thinks he's going to hold his eyes closed to signal to people that I'm going to stop because you keep guessing and interrupting. By the way, most of my videos are on the website. If there is not a video that has our hospital logo on it, would you please not videotape it, because I don't have a signed release from the patient? But everything else you can also go and look on the website, and they're also on our YouTube channel. Another video. So this man, his wife said to me, I don't understand why with Eugene, he will start to spell something. I will guess it. And instead of saying yes and continuing on, he will continue to spell out the entire message, sometimes taking a very long time. So Jean was sitting right there. So as she was saying, I don't understand why, I just turned to Eugene and said, Eugene, why do you do that? And he answered, and I'm not going to play the whole video, it's very long. This is also on our website, but I will get to the very end of it. He uses eye tracking, But in this instance, he's using a laser pointer with a core board of vocabulary, which can be a very powerful strategy if you have the right vocabulary and the alphabet there. And what he goes on essentially to spell out is, I do it because ALS is robbing me of everything, and it is the only piece that I have left that I can do independently. So it is a matter of my personal dignity that he wants to be able to create his own message and not have people constantly guessing. I had another patient say to me, when patients guess, when people guess, it's like in normal conversation when your partner continues to finish your sentence for you, and how frustrating that is, especially if they don't do it correctly, and then you have to adjust what they're saying. So let me see if I have the right spot here.
Strips you of
your
I-O-U-R space.
And can you see the little laser, the red moving?
G-N-I-T-Y. Dignity. ALS strips you of your dignity. Why then it's so important to hold on to.
So he goes on to say, ALS strips you of your dignity. Holly says in this video, it is like someone, when people are predicting, it's like they're sending the message that they're in a rush and they don't have time for me. And so if someone doesn't have time, I'd rather not speak with them. And in the interest of our time, I'm not going to play that video right now. I want you to hear Bob one more time. Now, Bob is again using eye tracking. In this case, I just set him up with a dwell-less eye track, so you'll see he's very, very fast. And when you use dwell-less, you can't see the message being put together until it's completed. So I had asked him, well, what do you think about people when they read over your shoulder typically? And you'll hear his answer. And basically he says, I don't like it.
I mentioned that when you're typing, people can't look over your shoulder and kind of read what you're saying before you speak it out.
That can be good because they can wait until you finish your thought.
Mm-hmm.
He has one more comment.
I don't always like people reading over my shoulder.
I don't always like people reading over my shoulder. And so, again, he was using that with the dwell-less eye tracking. Calling attention. Many people tell us that one of the things that concerns them the most is being able to get someone's attention, even in their own home. You know, if a family member who is in the other part of the house and the person with ALS cannot quickly move, they want to have a way of getting attention. So just in short, I want to point out that there are many, many different call systems, many different switches one can use. We have many patients who like to use their own voice in a call system. So we, in the top left here, the red button is something called a Little Mac from a company called AbleNet. And this is also on our website. And it allows one to record a message into it. It can be very loud. And then we take a switch, and there are many different types of switches depending upon someone's movement and their strength. And wherever we place that switch, when the patient hits the switch, it speaks out the message very loud so that it can be heard out of the room. Sometimes people also use baby monitors so that it can still be heard further away. We have some people who are using text-to-speech on their iPads, for example. And are you aware of Arabic text-to-speech applications? There's one now. There's a new one. It's an add-on, and I'll get back to that, where you can type in Arabic and it will speak out in Arabic. So the challenge, and I'll talk a bit more about this in a little bit, and you know much more about this than I will ever know, but I've come to understand that in the Arabic language, the pronunciation of a single word changes when it is combined with other words. Correct? Yes? And so I think that's one of the problems with Arabic synthetic speech. If one were to type a single word, it may sound good, but as soon as you put that word in a sentence, that word may not sound good anymore because it doesn't adjust. So there's more work to do, but it's much better than it was even 2 months ago. So for people who are using text-to-speech, they have an app where they can type in and make it speak out. Some patients might be sitting in their bedroom doing that, and they can't get attention of someone in the other side of the house. So what we do is connect the iPad to a Bluetooth speaker, and the partner carries the speaker with them around the house. So when I type on my iPad and hit speak, it will speak out with you in the kitchen. And now you immediately hear me say, I need something, would you come up? So it can be a very nice way of getting attention. Another way, and could you educate me? Certainly now in the United States, Amazon Alexa has become very popular, also here. You know that there are behaviors that Alexa has that allow you to make telephone calls, get attention, and we've done a lot of research to look at how Alexa responds to synthetic speech. So you will see here, I'm using eye tracking, this is in my office, to make a phone call using Alexa.
Alexa, call Megan.
Megan O'Brien, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, John.
Can you come over, please? I need some help. It is not urgent.
And that's
Absolutely, I'll be right there.
That's a pre-stored message. And now you'll see Megan
Alexa,
answering.
hang up.
Call coming in from John. Hi, John.
You come over, please. I need some help.
So that's one way that now using home automated technology could be useful for people with ALS or other disabilities, especially if someone is using synthetic speech. Another example is this system called Ask My Buddy through Alexa, where it will
Alexa,
send a
ask
text.
my buddy to alert John.
An alert to John.
So it sends a text
Hello.
email,
John Costello.
and a phone
Sent
call.
you an alert via MyBody.net on the Amazon Alexa. This alert is sent only if this person is asked for help.
And that's difficult to understand, but what the voice is saying is, I'm calling you because John has said he's asked for your attention. This is only used if this person needs help, so please check on him. There are many different Bluetooth amplifiers, by the way, and those are on our website as well. Before I go on, any questions, comments, experiences so far? Okay, I just want to make sure I'm not rushing through anything. Quick access, low-tech tools. For the longest time, we talked about anything that wasn't technology-based as being low-tech. What we've come to learn is that many people with ALS who haven't been thinking about technology, certainly haven't been thinking about augmentative technology, when we as clinicians say, I want to introduce you to low-tech strategies, they immediately are offended because they think you've made a choice that they are not smart enough to use technology. So what we've learned is instead of saying, I want to give you low-tech, we want to give you quick access tools. We want to give you ways to quickly get your point across. So that's why it's called quick access there. There are many different quick access strategies using an E-Tran board, using eye gaze, and in fact, I want to show you a couple of different tools. So we introduce as early as possible to our patients what's referred to as partner-assisted spelling, meaning if you are ever having a hard time speaking, reaching out and pointing, I want you to still be able to spell anything using this partner-assisted strategy. We give everybody, and this is on our website, and it's a free downloadable template, and you may definitely want to modify it depending upon who's using it and what their choices are in terms of body exposure. So I will show you a couple of things here. So first, starting with the partner-assisted board. We have an alphabet board, and I'm going to move ahead here to show you. Oops. This video on our website of the alphabet board as a training tool. Okay, so first, as we go through the partner assist spelling, can you show me what signal I should be paying attention to for yes? So I want to know how she's going to say yes. Okay, so you're going to blink your eyes. She shows me she's going to close her eyes tightly. All right. Do you have something in mind? All right. A row. So I'm asking her, E-row. First letter. Is it in the A row? The E row? Is the letter I, J, K, L, M. First letter is M. Next letter. So now I know the first letter is M. E, I, O, U. Is the letter U. V, W, X, Y, my. Is that the whole word? Next word. A. So I'm going to move this ahead a little bit. I should know. L to next letter A. S T T A E. Letter E. F G H T H A. Letter A. T H A. Next letter A. E. She goes on to thank me for helping her. J,
Okay.
But then
No.
I ask her
and-
before I leave
And thank,
if she
yes.
has anything else,
Thank you.
if she's comfortable.
thank you. My pleasure. Is there anything I should know? Is it itchy? Pain? Pain. Front of the body? Okay. Stop me when I get there. So, around your neck area. Now I just want to know how bad the pain is. Stop me when I get there. Okay. Around here. Do you need adjustment? Yes.
So we have on our website these templates that you can download, because what we have learned is that when people learn to do partner-assisted spelling as early as possible, that in the real moment when they can't communicate, they can use the strategy. For all of us, if you have to learn something at the same time that you have to use it, it can be very difficult. So the goal is for people to master partner-assisted spelling as early as possible. There's a man I work with who told me that he now, and he said this he was being funny. He said, so you told us to learn to use this. We learned it very early. Now we no longer even have to look at it, because I can just say A, E, E, and my wife will say E, F, First letters F, A, E. So he said, I was driving one day. I was driving to an appointment, and my wife was in her wheelchair in the back of the van as I was driving, and she vocalized, and he said, do you want to spell something? So he started as he's driving, A, E, E, F, A, A. He said by the time he had finished, his wife had spelled out fast. And then he turned to me and he said, thank you, John. You have now given my wife the ability to criticize my driving, even though she can't speak, because she was using this partner-assisted spelling to direct him, and they know it so well. The body then, board, so we've got one for male, one for female, and again, you can modify those. The pain scale is really important. You saw how quickly I was able to get to information. And then the final thing that is on here, there's a board for yes, no, and something else. Why is this important? I've worked with many people who get to a point where they have minimal movement for yes and no. So I was working with a man in the intensive care unit. He could look up for yes, he could look to the right for no. His medical team was asking him about a procedure they wanted to do. They described the procedure. They asked him, do you understand it? He looked up yes. They said, then can we move ahead and schedule it? He looked to the side, no. So do you understand that we think it's critical that we do this procedure? Yes. Can we do it? No. Is there anything you don't understand about the procedure? No. Do you understand that we think you will not survive unless we do this? Yes. Can we do it? No. So the team in the intensive care unit had said, this is tragic. This man is choosing to give up life now. And we know that there's so much more that can be done. So it went to the ethics committee in the hospital because the medical team was not in agreement, but he was his own decision maker. And someone had said to me, John, you've known Brian from years ago. Would you go and see him in the ICU? The only thing that I did is say to him, okay, Brian, I want to ask questions, and I'm going to go through, is it yes? Is it no? Is it something else? And I want you to look up when I get to the right one. By offering him the third choice, what we learned is that he was never saying no to the surgery. He was never saying, no, I want to die. What he wanted to say is, wait, don't rush into it. But when he's only being asked yes, no questions, he had no way of directing people anywhere else. And as we continued on, what we realized and what he told us is, remember 3 years ago when you wanted to do that procedure and then the team waited and I didn't need it? I want you to wait again to see if I won't need it. But everyone thought he was saying, I want to die. And so it was a very important lesson to me about how when people have complex needs, we cannot rely on just asking yes, no questions. There has to be a third option so that they can direct us accordingly. So that's why it's on there. And we introduced this strategy very early in clinic.
Demonstrate it for you.
So you'll see
So think of, but don't tell me.
this woman
Very simple way.
is able to speak, she's able to walk, she's able to reach and touch. And I'm just
Now look at
teaching
this.
her the strategy
I'm
now
going
in
to ask
clinic,
you, and really pretend you are so wiped
and then
out.
giving them the
Don't
board
use
so they
no.
can take it and
Say
practice
no.
it.
Just wait until I get to the right area.
So I'm going to move on again in the interest of time. Those templates are on our website. There are other boards as well, other materials, E-Tran boards. There are electronic encoding strategies. There is a tool referred to as the Megabee, and I believe that this now is available in Arabic. So what the Megabee does is it's set to use a 2-point coding system. So if you look at this board and you see the buttons on there, that's facing me. You are on the other side of it, and I'm asking you, okay, you're spelling something. Look at the square where the first letter of the word is. So perhaps the first letter of the word is maybe the letter C. So you look at that top right square, and I see you look at it, and I say, oh, you're looking at the blue square. And so I press the blue button. Now I say, now look at the square that is the same color as the letter. You look at the white square. I press the white button, and it puts the letter C in the message window. So I don't have to keep track of where you are. I just have to watch your eye movements, and then the message can be put together. Patients have said, and families have said, that this has been a really great strategy for them to use, especially in the middle of the night when people are tired, if someone can't remember when they're using the A-E-I-O-U spelling, it's all written out for them. Okay, one last quick access tool that I want to highlight. So I was sitting with a man and a woman, the man and his wife who has ALS, and the man looked at me and he said, I feel like such an idiot. I said, why? Why are you saying this? He said, I was helping my wife at home. We have a rolling chair, and I was helping her into the bathroom. And I helped her in there, and then my wife said something to me, and I said, what? And she said it again. And I said, what? And she said it again. And then he got very upset with himself, and he said, and then I yelled at her. And I said, I don't understand. His wife got upset that he was so upset. And he said, then I said again, or she said it again, and I said, what? And he said, the 5th time I realized she said, don't forget to lock the wheels. And he said, she says that every single day at that moment. Why did I yell at her? And so I say to people, write those things down. Just write it down. Nobody does it. So what I started doing is, and this is also on our website, I started giving people a blank template. So just piece of paper, blank, with tabs on it. And I tell people, as messages come up, I want you to write those down. So now, while you're still able to use speech, I want you to think about messages that frequently occur and start to write those down, put on the tab, maybe it's wheelchair, food, positioning, whatever. And as time moves on, I want you then to give that to me, and we will type them up and make them pretty. You know, we'll laminate them and bind them, etc. Many people have done this, and many folks have told me that it has ended up being one of the most powerful tools for them because they were so part of creating it. Yes? You did it with someone who had tongue paralysis. Fantastic. It's very useful. So, and what's so important about when someone does it in advance, and I have several examples here if you want to look at them when we're finished. I was working with a woman, Holly, who you will meet in video, and I was at Holly's house 2 days before she died. And Holly was there, her family was there, I was there, her nurse was there. And Holly was sitting in her chair with her mask on, her full face mask, and she was heavily medicated. And her nurse walked by and said, "Oh, I think I have to suction you," moved her recliner up straight, took her mask off, suctioned her mouth, put the mask back on, and went on her way. About 5 minutes later, Holly, who is now, we're told, not able to engage with us and is heavily sedated, we heard, "Holly, are you trying to tell us something? Is it on your flip book? Is it on your bed page, your position page? Is it the first column, the second column? Is it move my head? Is it..." And as we're about to say the next message, the nurse said, "I forgot to recline the chair." And the next message was recline my chair, and Holly said, The thing that was so powerful about that is that this was a time in Holly's life when everything said she should no longer be able to participate in her own care. She should no longer be able to have control. And the only reason that happened is because she knew this strategy, because she had developed it with us. And again, that is on our website. In the interest of time, I want to move forward and make sure we get to message banking. Certainly, writing strategies are very important. You know the tool, the boogie board. Crazy how wonderful this tool is for so many people. So it's a very important tool now for many people. Using keyboards on your phone. For many patients, we find that even as they have minimal movement, they're able to use the keyboard. And the keyboard that many people like is the swipe keyboard. Have you seen that? The swipe keyboard? I have it on my phone. I can show it to you afterwards as well. But it basically means all you have to do is slide your finger across, and it selects the letters. In fact, this woman, I think, you will see is demonstrating swipe.
I'm usually a little behind on conversations, but this helps a lot.
So the swipe keyboard is something you can download to your iPad, to your iPhone, to your Android, or to Windows. And it can be very fast. Other simple strategies. I see many people now have the pop socket on their phone. I've seen lots of them here. For people with ALS, it can be so helpful because they can still hold the phone even if they don't have good finger control. Okay, now I want to talk about message banking and then voice banking. We started the whole concept of message banking at Boston Children's Hospital about 28 years ago. So we kind of invented the concept actually in our intensive care unit. And I'll show you a little bit of that first. Message banking is digitally recording and storing words, phrases, sentences, and personally meaningful sounds or stories using one's own natural voice with inflection and intonation. The messages that people have most often wanted to message bank and use, we now refer to as legacy messages. They're not messages like, would you get me a glass of water? If I had to use a computer synthetic voice to say, may I have a glass of water? That's okay by me. If I had to say to my child, I am so proud of you and love you so much, that I want them to hear me say with my voice and my intonation. So that is a legacy message. Our voice is our acoustical fingerprint. You hear someone's voice and it is part of their identity to the people around them. So when we started message banking, I mentioned we started it in our intensive care unit. I'll show you a very quick, this is in 1996, so 22 years ago, with a girl who had Ewing sarcoma of the mandible. So her jaw, she had cancer, and her mandible was removed. And you can't tell right now because of swelling, but this is after surgery, so she no longer has a mandible at this point. Before her surgery, she had banked many messages, and you'll hear her actually giving grief to the medical staff in her own voice, even though right now she can't speak. You see that she has a tracheostomy. No fair. It hurts. No. So the nurse had just asked to do a procedure, and using her own voice, she was being very bossy back and refusing to do it. But that's how we started the whole idea of message banking. When we began to see people with ALS, we then recognized if we could meet people as early as possible, that it would be very powerful for people to message bank. So this woman with ALS, who you're about to meet, is using an iPad with all of her messages incorporated into it. We had spent a lot of time early on, while she could still speak, banking, and now I've gone to her home and just put all of the messages on her computer and then integrated them into her iPad app. And she is, for the first time in almost 6 weeks, talking with her dog. And so I think her dog's response is wonderful here.
We'll see.
Good morning, puppy. Hello, sweet puppy. So her dog is now hearing her voice again and responding to her. I'm going to move on. Nancy has banked many, many messages, and she wanted on video to demonstrate how very important it was and all the many different messages that she grabbed or that she had banked. Nancy was a pastor in a church, and so it was very important to her that she have messages that allow her to give other people comfort, even through her disease.
Build your kingdom.
And she begins to cry, but then she explains why.
I'm crying because I'm happy.
I'm crying because I'm happy.
What?
Greg will love that.
ALS affects the body, but it doesn't affect your mind. ALS sucks.
So she recorded herself laughing so that when she can no longer laugh, she can still use her own voice.
I don't know how I get by without you.
And one more. So Holly, I mentioned earlier, I was at Holly's home, and we set up her device for the first time, and she was practicing with her eyes to make sure everything was working. And I set up my video camera because I wanted to capture the assessment process. I was not paying attention to who was in the room, but you will see when Holly goes to the category for her dog to practice, to see if those messages are there, we didn't realize the dog was in the room.
Walker, come here, Walker. Walker, come on. Walker, come here, Walker. Walker, come on. You want a cookie?
Awesome! That's awesome! He got a little something.
Where's that silly dog? Walker, come here, Walker.
And this goes on, but you can see the power of your own voice, even with animals, is very evident. So when we introduce message banking, the goal is that it is technology agnostic, meaning we should never choose a communication device first. Because if someone truly is able to message bank, it is early enough in the disease that we don't know what the best device is going to be. So we want message banking to be something that starts very early, and then we worry about the technology later. I am drastically opposed to companies that will say, you should get our device and start to record into it. And that happens all the time. So I believe it has to be technology agnostic. And it has to be something that allows us to provide the best tool when someone needs it. What we do is we save all the messages and we download them when someone needs them. And I'll show you a couple of tools that we have available now. On our website, there's a whole group of training videos for how to message bank, how to use the recorder, how to advise patients how to message bank, why we use a specific recorder that uses, in fact, I'll show you, we use pretty much only the Zoom H1 recorder because it is small, handheld, and it allows for dot wave recording, which is the highest quality recording. Now, even though technology right now will let you use lower quality, like MP3, I am asking my patients to message bank for the long term. And I don't know if someone is message banking now, when they need technology, if the technology of the day will accept MP3. I know that it will accept WAV, and I can make WAV into MP3, but if I start with lower quality, I can't make it better. Also, many of my patients now are making medical decisions that are causing them to live for a long time. I have some people who are going on their third communication device in 12 years. So if I've got someone right now for whom I may be trying to find a new technology 12 years from now, I want to make sure I can use all their recordings in that new technology. So we created, and this will be on our Boston Children's Hospital website soon, I wanted to have a way that when people message bank, all of the messages could be uploaded, labeled, and then saved in the cloud until you used them. Currently, this is working for English. We are working on trying to change platforms so it will include many more languages. Arabic, probably not for another year, but you can see here, I think if it will play.
To access our message banking site created
That-
on my Mac, I need to
All you have to do is, let me go back
it will
further,
go
sorry.
through once they're, I think this file happens to be about 18 or 19. There they are. I'm going to tell it to
So
start
I've selected the
labeling them.
messages. It's now downloading them.
It will go through. Once they're labeled, we'll be able to see.
And then after I
text.
download
I'm gonna
it,
Mac
them,
and
it goes
I've
through and it
noticed that
automatically
sometimes
labels them.
on my
It
Mac,
saves
I
a
need
crazy
to
amount of
hit
time.
refresh in order for everything to appear. Have not run into that on a PC.
And then once they're
so you
labeled,
can see here now the text. Oh,
I
this is a
can go
great message.
through.
Let's-
To the future without being fearful of the disease symptoms progressing.
And that's really good. So I can tell it that it.
I can now say, yes, that did
Verified.
it perfectly.
And
I can assign it to a
also, I'm gonna tag
category.
this to a category. I think that this one is right now. I'm going to call it advocacy.
And this man, in the interest of time,
right.
again, I will
This
move
one?
on. But this man has messages to.
Hearing your voice
nice.
has made my day.
He has messages
Call
to
this
his
gratitude.
sons saying, "Don't forget to put oil in the car," and things like that.
Whatever you decide, I trust your judgment on this.
So messages that he always wants to make sure he's able to communicate to his children. The typical message banking session, introducing this to people, takes anywhere from an hour to 2 hours. And again, on our website, the whole process is there. So you can go and watch those videos if you'd like. And this is part of the page from our website. There are other models that I've described. They're actually using our term message banking, which we trademarked at Boston Children's. And some of those are models that are requiring people to pay. And I personally don't agree with that. I think it should always be free, which is why we've created the site that we have. There's a group in Italy that's now doing it as well. We're very focused on making sure that if someone does message bank, it's in a format that will go across platforms so that ultimately it can be used in whatever technology is best. Voice banking. Voice banking, on the other hand, is a process of recording a large inventory of your speech following a predetermined script. So it's not about capturing messages that you really would want to say. It's about capturing all of the sounds in the language in all the orders that they might be in. So I voice banked using a product from Acapella, and I want you to hear my voice. So this is text to speech. And this is a message that one of my patients had banked to his wife, so I wanted to use that message.
You are the love of my life, and I am so glad you have been beside me.
So it sounds like me, but it's choppy.
You are the love of my life, and I am so glad that you've been beside me.
So I obviously want a message like that to be delivered in a way that reflects my heart, not just my voice. And that's where message banking, I think, can be so important. There are a number of voice bank options now. And I want to tell you about, so this is a cappella again. We did an improvement on my voice.
This is John. This is my computer voice. This is John. This is my computer voice.
So that voice was obviously mine, and I think it sounded a fair amount like me. This process has not been possible to do in many languages, including Arabic. However, they are about to launch a cappella for Arabic, doing voice banking. Because I described to you that typically there are about 1,500 sentences that you have to read in order to create the voice. And it's very important that people are precisely speaking those sentences. And again, you know so much more about this than I will ever know, but what I've learned is that because in Arabic there are not vowels, many vowels in written language, that the fear was if people were given 1,600 written sentences, they would pronounce them very differently. So a cappella chose to use a script that everybody knows and that everybody produces the same. And so as you see here, they have created a script based upon the Quran. And knowing that that is a passage that will be delivered in exactly the same way by everybody, they know that they can get a pure sample. And this has just started, but it is supposed to be available in a few months. And so I was glad to be able to kind of learn about it now, knowing that there may be people who definitely want to voice bank and create their own voice to speak in Arabic. By the way, I have people who want to do it in 2 languages. So they may voice bank in English and they may voice bank in Italian and have both of those available depending upon their communication partners. So I think one of the things that's also been interesting with voice banking is when my patients have message banked many, many messages, I've wanted some of the voice banking companies to take their real messages and try to create a voice out of them so that people don't have to record many nonsense sentences. Acapella has just started to do that as well. So this is a man I work with.
It takes me a little longer to answer. Please be patient.
So that's his real voice. And then they took about 500 recordings of him and created this voice.
Pleased to meet you. The voice you hear has been created with a very limited amount of recordings of my voice. The original voiced sample here above is one of them.
And I'll start that again because I was speaking over it. I apologize.
The synthetic voice has been created with
So the first is his real voice. The second is the voice created by taking about 30 minutes of his message banking.
It takes me a little longer to answer. Please be patient. Hello, pleased to meet you. The voice you hear has been created with a very limited amount of recordings of my voice. The original voiced sample here above is one of them. The synthetic voice has been created with a cappella DNN, which allows this amazing technological feat.
Okay, so speech generating device assessment. I mentioned there are many different technologies that are available. There are several softwares here in the Middle East that support Arabic. There are, from Tobii Dynavox, the communicator software is in Arabic, but also now Grid 3 software from Smartbox has also been developed in Arabic to be used through eye tracking devices or handheld devices. So really, what I want to highlight is making sure that people are always paying attention to the best tool, the best match. And then clearly there are some other research-based projects, like this person who is using brain-computer interface in our clinic to start to learn how he can use brain waves to type. And so this is still very experimental, but there are a variety of other strategies. It's just most important that the assessment is based upon a good match to who the individual is and not just a device that a vendor is willing to bring in. Many, many considerations in terms of language, coding, access, environmental control that have to be considered, and then collecting data on how well that person can really use that tool before moving ahead with it. What we find, and I think what you must find as well, is that distance can be a real problem for supporting people. So looking at telesupport and telehealth has been an important part of what we're doing in clinic now, so that after we're seeing a patient, being able to do follow-up support with them through the computer. And I think, in the interest of time, what I should do is, I do want to highlight again that there are technologies that allow you to integrate your home with your voice output aid. So this one, for example, again, I'm using eye tracking to control the lights and music.
Alexa, turn on living room light.
Okay.
Alexa, dim living room light.
Okay.
Alexa, living room light full brightness.
Full brightness.
Okay.
Alexa, turn off living room light.
Okay.
Alexa, volume 8.
Volume 8. So just to give you an idea of how home automation technology can be controlled along with augmentative communication systems using voice control, even for people who are no longer able to speak. And then finally, I wanted to highlight again our website if you're interested in looking at any of these resources, using any of the free resources, looking at the videos again, they're all on this site. And I wonder if any questions or comments. We're obviously a very intimate group here, so we could have all kinds of conversation.
You just learned the idea about the AAC.
Thank you. Thank you. And that is my goal, and that's the goal of our program, because AAC has been looked at as such a narrow area. And I would very much like to figure out a way to help Saudi Arabia move forward like this and collaborate to develop a program that is much more robust. And I know that there's other interests now. I'm going to be at a rehab center in Kuwait in 2 weeks, and their whole idea is they want to develop this kind of a robust program. And so anything that I can do to help here in Riyadh, I'm very happy to do that. Pardon me? A lexicon, yes. Yeah, it's so they allow you to record messages. Yes, it's not been very. It's very limited. It's very limited. Yes, but it's also then just for that app. So, and the whole idea of making sure if someone message banks, that they are doing it in the broadest of manners. Also with a lexicon, if someone records into that and then later needs to use an eye tracking device, those recordings don't necessarily work. So then someone no longer has their voice.
So how do you become voice bankers or volunteers with the Arabic versions available?
So if you give me your information, I will put you in touch with the people who are developing the Arabic voice bank, because I know they're very much looking for ways to collaborate to move it forward. The woman with whom I have been speaking from Acapella speaks Arabic, and so she was planning to create her own voice, but I don't know if, but I know that they want as many people to collaborate as possible. So if you have a card, possibly, or I could give you my card and you could email me, and then I can put you in touch. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time and for taking all this time to spend with me. Thank you.
Is it special